take off my reading glasses. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Teach Outdoors podcast. I'm Lauren McLean, and we have a part two finally with another amazing guest that we had a year or two ago, Kyra. Like this was a while ago. So I cannot wait. We've got Kyra Stephenson with us again. She already had this amazing conversation with us about her experiences working as a nature-based learning coach at Anna Murray Douglas Academy School, school number 12, that is within the Rochester City School District. She has pre-K now to grade 6 students at her school, and we talked a lot about last time that your program has is built on three main pillars. So you have academic growth, there's the physical and mental, or not mental, but physical and emotional wellness, and then the community building, which also included, connections with the natural community. We also talked a lot about last time about the benefits that you were already seeing with nature-based learning. There was a decrease in your behavior referrals. You were already seeing initial findings of academic growth. All these things that we read about, in articles, but you're actually walking the talk. You're living it. So it's really nice to have you back again to sort of update us with how everything is going. So we cannot wait to hear from you. Thank you so much. I know we've got a bit of a time difference on opposite sides, coast to coast, sort of. So again, thank you for being here, and I can't wait to hear how things are going at your school.
Oh, thanks, Lauren. Thanks for such an enthusiastic welcome. I am thrilled to be here again, just having these conversations about the impacts of nature-based learning and what we are seeing with our students. And we have quite the update. We have started year number 4 of nature-based learning at our school. Yes, right?
Yay!
Yay. Because there was a brief period of time where it was concern there was some concern about it being kind of cut, and we have a wonderful community of parents and surrounding community members that really fought to keep it, and so here we go with year number 4. We just about finished the first full week of nature-based learning at school this week.
Okay, so you're just finishing week 1. For us, we have just finished week 3, so we're fairly similar in our timing, starting up in September. So, as I said, I'm so excited to sort of get into the nitty gritty. So you're a nature-based learning coach, so you work with all the teachers now in the school because originally when we first talked it was sort of by invitation. So if you would like to work with Kyra, let's sign up and we'll take you outside. But even that's changed since we've talked.
I think that is probably one of the biggest logistical things that has changed with the program. When we first introduced nature-based learning, we thought it was really important to give teachers choice. If you are in the world of education, you know that every day there are things added to educators' plates. We are
Yes.
asked to do more with less. And it was really important to me, coming from being a science educator for years, that this wasn't something pushed down on, pushed to educators, that
Right.
they could use this if they wanted to and learn from it and try it out. uh, we had such, I would say, enthusiastic engagement that it was an administrator that said, I think every child should have this. I think every teacher should be doing this. I was a little hesitant, I will be honest.
Okay.
I was a little hesitant simply because that does mean logistically it's a little bit of a bigger lift.
Right.
Um, we currently have, I think, almost 40 classes at our school. We have almost 800 students.
Wow.
And so to be able to do nature-based learning with everybody was was a project. However, that being said, absolutely necessary because every child has a right, I believe, has a right to nature-based learning, has a right to be able to play in safe green spaces along with nature.
Right.
So last year was year 3, and we put this into practice and had just a tremendous year. It was fabulous. And the outpouring of support from our community, our parents, and really the teachers too. Cannot give our educators enough props for going on this journey with me. And literally a journey, following a wagon into the woods and going places in all the Rochester weather. These are some amazing educators that we have at School 12. So this is year 4, and I can kind of talk about what the schedule looks like and how it works, if that
Yes,
would be helpful.
please. Yes.
So in order to fit all of the classes, they're on a 3-week rotating basis.
Okay.
And a few years ago, I got to go to the Urban Ecology Centers of Milwaukee, and looking at different programs and what is an appropriate amount of time for nature-based learning classes and how do you fit everything in. I would say in a dream world, you're looking at hopefully 90 minutes
Right.
of time, given the time to also transition and get ready
Yeah.
with the realistic schedules of schools.
Yeah.
We are able to do 3 1-hour nature-based learning classes a day
Okay.
and a shortened kind of flex class for some of our classes that we feel need to go in short, very positive
Right.
experiences in order to build up. So that gives us that 3-week rotation.
All right.
And, you have to keep in mind specials. So
Yes.
they still have to go to PE and music and art, rightfully so. There's lunch,
Yeah.
and the other, expectations that need to happen within an elementary school schedule. So we got the schedule to pretty much work out for that 3-week rotation. The way that we do it is the same grade will have nature-based learning at the same time, but on a different day.
Okay.
So for instance, from 8 to 9, 10, every day this week, we had a kindergarten class. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
I have learned that you take a day to not teach classes
Yeah.
because the prep time, the cleaning time, the caring for living,
Yeah.
all of our other living organisms and our friends that are in our nature center, all of those things do take time, and including with meetings with community partners. And I can talk about that too,
Okay.
shortly. So when we decide what we'll be doing for those classes on that 3-week rotating basis, a lot of it comes from our overarching themes that we have per grade level.
Mm-hmm.
So we have kind of year-long themes. So if you think large going small, right? And small would be your one particular class that's meeting certain New York State standards. But the theme overall is for pre-K and kindergarten. It's very much play,
Right.
which we know that we need more of that in schools beyond kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Right. So kindergarten and pre-K are very much play, exploring our place, knowing our bodies when they're outside. So
Yeah.
balancing, this week we were balancing and climbing on logs and things like that.
Yeah.
First grade, we focus on community. Um, so our natural community, but also what is within our community and where can we find green spaces? Where can we connect with nature within our community?
Yeah.
Second grade, we do humane treatment of animals. And
Oh.
this comes from a literacy program that our our animal humane center is doing with a couple of the schools in the area.
Huh. That's so interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So third grade, then we are doing almost pollinator to food.
Oh,
right?
wonderful.
So that whole connection, a lot of kids get the pollination thing. They know that bees pollinate, but there's a whole deeper world.
Mm-hmm.
And so working on that connection of multiple pollinators
Right.
with different plants and
Right.
that idea of form and function, and then how do you really end up with your tomatoes and your strawberries and your greens and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Fourth grade is, if you think about it in terms of geologic time, so where we are located is on one of the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario, but we also have the Genesee River, which runs north through our city.
Okay.
And this area used to be a tropical sea.
Hmm.
So we have salt mines that are just south of our city. So that grade is going to walk through um, geologic time. So starting hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, working our way to indigenous practices and cultures that were using the land and the rivers and the waters. Then kind of the modern day, there's a park, state park called Ledgeworth State Park that has a dam that was put in order to protect
Mm.
the city. And so how has that changed from geologic, going back
Right.
in time to the current? How are we using our water, um, and especially the Great Lakes, and what that might look like too as
Mm-hmm.
climate changes and things like that?
Right.
Fifth grade, we start to put some of this in practice with community action projects. So I use the word guardianship more for our program than I do stewardship.
Yeah.
Um, and for purposes, when I think of stewardship, you almost think of there's something that needs to be fixed
Yes.
and it's a project
Yeah.
versus guardianship is
A
choices
relationship.
that we make. It's a relationship, it's a protection, and it's longer and ongoing. So, fifth grade does some of the stewardship projects because they are needed, and that does build community with our natural kin. And so different entities around our school, from building bluebird houses to park cleanups, those things are still needed.
Yeah.
And it then ties into our sixth grade, which I'm really excited about because we partner with RIT and Sea Grant. Sea Grant is an international entity that protects and educates about our Great Lakes.
Okay.
And so it's more technical, more scientific and STEM based in terms of looking at the macro plastics
Mm.
that can end up in our stormwater systems. And so they work on a year-long project in cooperation with RIT and Sea Grant. It's called the Cascade Program. And it's an acronym, and don't ask me what it stands for right now.
Okay.
But Cascade, it's yeah,
Yeah.
CASCADE. So
All right, I'll look that up.
I
I
can send you information on that too.
Yes, please. Yeah, because any of these links I can add to our to the podcast show notes, which will be super helpful.
Great.
I love how you've got this theme that runs through all the grades because I find that when we have that overarching umbrella, it's so much easier to have a clear vision
Mhm.
of how to scaffold the learning and making sure that your schedule is consistent with like the pre-Ks and then grade ones or grade twos. That makes it so much easier for the specialist teacher, the prep teacher, whatever they're called. They're all called something different across Canada, across the states. It makes it so much easier to plan for,
Mhm.
right? And so if I know some of our prep teachers for outdoor learning go from a grade two, 2 minutes later, they've got a grade six, 2 minutes
Okay.
later, they've got kindergarten, and it is flip-flopping. That makes it quite difficult to get into a flow. And sometimes our prep classes are 30 minutes long.
Mm.
We can't get kids dressed in that amount of
Right.
time. We
Right.
can't go on a nature walk. We can't have a nice circle. We can't get into an activity deeply. So time limitations, I know you mentioned that, that can be really limiting for some schools. So I think hearing how you structure your week is quite helpful, even for me as I'm trying to think of my daily plan because we're just, 3 weeks in, but we're figuring out where our gym blocks are, where our music is, and making sure we have enough time. I love 90-minute blocks as well. It is a bit more
Right.
realistic having 60, but 90 would definitely be the dream,
Amazing. Right.
right?
It would be the dream. And I think at least setting that bar high for 90 minutes.
Yeah,
And this year I was able with the schedule to get all of the grades that 60-minute block at least. And the teachers have so far this week, they're like, this is great because one, they don't feel rushed.
yeah,
We know when the weather changes, we will have time to do the transitions with clothing. Um, and when I really looked at the overall vision, it was if I were a student going through School 12 as a nature-based learning program, what what does that student look like?
right.
And we just had in New York State the profile of a graduate come out. That's going to be kind of our next, standards. And
Right.
it's almost that. What is the profile of a nature-based learning student?
Yep.
And it was being able to play respectfully and among, all of our little critters, right? To then really understanding that there are so many different ways to solve some of our problems and that
Yep.
it's not a place to give up hope. It's a place to put your experience and your knowledge into action. And so scaffolding that I think is really important because now we are seeing a change in the culture of our building and our
Right.
community.
Yeah.
And the students. And this year, especially, like I said, school, the first full week of school was last week, but we give some time for teachers to get their systems in place
Yes.
before we start taking kids outside. Um, and this year we started right off the bat. We didn't really need to, even with kindergarten.
Right.
And about, I would say maybe a third of our kindergarteners in each of our classes were part of our pre-K program.
Oh,
So
that's
not
nice.
all of the students had necessarily had nature-based before, but I was really impressed with how the kids were this week.
Yeah.
Third grade, some of these students have now had me for years. They knew exactly. They circled up, they know
Oh,
our routine, they know why. They talk about how, I loved watching them walk around an ant, and it's just how they are now.
yeah.
Um, which
Yeah.
is beautiful and worth all the hard work.
Right?
This is not easy.
No.
This is really changing a system, a culture, the way things are expected to be done, the way things are taught to be done. But I'll tell you, the joy I see, even the teachers. I talked with a fifth grade teacher yesterday, and watching her outside with her class,
Oh,
just her face was great,
yeah.
and this is how our educators deserve to be as well.
Yeah. Well, and I love everything that you're saying, but this idea of that culture shift that you're noticing because it's been consistent.
Hmm.
So year after year, it's going to get easier. And I know one of the big things that I often hear from teachers is, well, my community's not supportive. The parents are going to get upset when they're wet. The kids don't want to come outside. Well, we don't give up. And yeah, this was a couple years ago, but I remember at a parent teacher conference, I had made the connection to the parent that said, if your child said to me, math is really hard, Miss McLean, I'm not going to respond back saying, oh, that's okay then. I won't teach you math this year. You get a pass, no
Right,
worries. But I also don't shove the math down their throats full force, right? Like we see where their comfort is. We scaffold it
Yes.
appropriately, and then we are consistent. We have high expectations. We have very good communication with our families, and the math comfort will come. The nature comfort will come from that. So, yes, it might be hard for the first year or two, but even, I've been at my school, maybe this is my fourth year. You know, they know that if they're going to be in my classroom, that we will be outside
Yes.
every day.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise. It's I don't have to worry at all about any type of backlash because it's a predictable routine for people now.
Exactly. And I think what you just described too is good teaching
Yeah,
when it really comes down to it.
yeah.
And we've done similar things. So some of the practicality of things that we put into place is the building that we're in used to also go to middle school, so seventh and eighth graders. So we have some excess of lockers.
Mm,
So I took a row of lockers and they're by size. So we have extra boots, extra snow pants, extra jackets in the lockers. So those are kind of
amazing.
easy to grab. Then in a storage room behind the classroom. So I have a classroom with a nice, decent sized storage, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
And I asked for donations, so we have the big plastic storage shelving and then the bins. And in the bins are boots and hats and gloves. So all of the extra gear needed. And like what I say is this is the gear to keep you safe.
yeah,
And even muck boots or rain boots and raincoats, and you can layer underneath if you can't necessarily house all of the down and the
right.
puffier jackets and things like that. But if you can at least get kids to stay dry, that helps. And then I have been saying over and over, and I say this to the kids, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
My job is to keep you safe, but
Yes.
it's okay to be a little cold. It's okay to be muddy. It's
Yeah.
okay to get, some clothes dirty. And from the office at our school, we've heard that phone calls about kids, parents not wanting kids to go outside or
Yeah.
not wanting clothes to get dirty, which I totally appreciate that. I have three kids myself. Now they're almost all adults, but so I do respect that, of course, but we want to provide all the different ways that we can remove those barriers. So by
Right.
having extra clothes and extra gear, and it becoming an expectation that we go outside, those things have pretty much dissipated.
Yeah.
They really have, and even the kids are okay. And you'll hear them like, "Oh, when my shoes dry, the grass will come off,"
Yeah. Yeah. We used to, this was years ago when I used to teach K1 with my colleague April Pickerainen, and we used to, at the beginning of the year, meet the teacher night, and we would show pictures of previous
Mhm.
students just muddy, wet, huge smiles. And then we would say jokingly, but also in a quite serious way, so you might receive your child looking like this at the end of the day. And these are some sentences that you might respond back. We're so proud you have nature on you. Looks like you were a scientist today. Good for you. You pushed out of your comfort zone. We're so proud of you. And the parents would laugh and giggle, but it did work because it sort of set the stage. And yet, I don't love doing laundry myself all the time with my
Right.
because my kids are young still, right? They're 4 and
Yeah.
6, and they do get so dirty. I'm never going to buy them nice shoes because they're going to be trashed. But as you said, as long as they are dry, that's okay. I sort
Right.
of have the same feeling about when students come up and say, "Oh, I'm bored."
Mm.
All right. Again, I'm not going to say, "Oh, okay, let me fix that for you." But I'm proud of you for naming that emotion. Good
Yep.
for you. That's good
Mhm.
self-awareness. So what are you going to do about it? Because
Yeah.
we've got all these systems in place to access nature. We've got learning tools. We've got lots of stuff to do. And this is your opportunity to sort of use your creative and critical thinking skills out in
Exactly.
nature. But it is really important for them to also have the opportunity to experience
Yes.
boredom because they don't often.
Yes. And that reminds me just a little bit too about what we are experiencing and seeing with our kids in terms of conversations and discourse and problem solving. Their conversations are different
Yeah.
outside and in nature than they are in the classroom.
Yeah.
They're much more freeing, creative, cooperative. The
Yes.
cooperation conversations are wild. And this is where I'm like, okay, we got to do some research on this as well as,
Yeah.
what's really happening, the problem solving. And those are skills that are incredibly important
Yeah.
as we grow up and become, productive citizens and responsible adults. And those are not necessarily things tied to standards, but again, it's that overarching picture. It's the skills that they are
Yeah.
developing. We do use a lot of the core routines that come from Coyote's Guide of Nature Connection. Now,
Right.
obviously, we've altered them a little bit because of
Yep.
being in a public school. But those routines have been proven to help with community building, help with that connection of nature. And I don't want to just say connection with nature because that we really are trying to focus on a deep connection,
Yeah.
and how we define what a deep connection is. To me, when I look at a child, it's are their thinking, their conversations, their behaviors changed or impacted because of this relationship with nature.
Yeah.
And we talk about impact all the time. When we enter a
Yeah.
natural space, we have an impact no matter what.
Yeah.
We could be as quiet as we can be, but our presence has an impact, and how we choose to try to control that impact is important.
Yep.
We want to lessen the impact we have.
Yeah. Lovely. So now that we sort of set the stage, so I know what your schedule looks like, I would love to know how you sort of scaffold your experiences at the beginning of the year because we're in the beginning of the year as well. So we want all I want to just pick your brain. Basically,
Okay,
what it comes down
okay.
to is how do you introduce, the different core routines outside? What games are you playing to help them?
Mm-hmm.
I also love the book Coyote's Guide. So if, people listening haven't read that one by John Young, it's a wonderful book. It's dense.
Yep.
You'll ear dog tag it all over the place. There's lots of
Yes.
great gems, but we do have to adapt it. I'm also in a public school setting. We take nothing is a perfect resource, right? We take bits and
Right,
pieces that
right.
works for us. So,
Uh,
but yeah, I definitely want to
yeah.
know how, like, your what you find works for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think, you just said something really important too, is that this has to be adaptable. It has to work
yeah,
for you, and it has to work for whatever educator you're working with.
yes,
And every class is a little bit different. There are definitely classes that I can walk further, I can spend more time outside with. And then there are classes. I had a class today where we did 15 minutes inside in the nature center because that's where we were at.
yeah,
And that was the perfect place to start.
yeah,
And then I had a third grade class that we went right back to this property we call Hope Hollow, which is part of the University of Rochester, right out. And they circled up quickly and all of those things. So it really, every class is different. Um, so we do, and we are continually to work on. They're not ready yet.
yeah,
We are working on almost like a menu of lesson plans that have married what I look at as a nature-based learning lesson plan and lesson plans that are tied to our Rochester City
mm,
School District curriculum and standards.
okay,
And so it's marrying the two. And my lesson plan is tied to what the three foundations of nature-based learning. So that it has to be an academic growth piece, holistic wellness,
yeah,
so moving our bodies, breathing, naming feelings, things like that. And then the community connection, obviously, with nature as well.
yeah.
So we have those that we are continuously tweaking. And I think by the end of this year, I think I'll like where they're at.
Nice. That's exciting.
um, so this first round, so this week and then the next 2 weeks are the first rotations of nature-based learning.
Okay.
Okay. So this week was kindergarten, fifth grade and third grade. And it doesn't, there's no rhyme or reason as to what grade. It's honestly who can do a class at 8 o'clock, who can do a class
Yeah.
at 9:30, and who can do a class at 11:50 or 10:50. Um, so it does make it tricky because you're going from kindergarten to fifth
Yeah.
grade in one day,
Yeah.
and you are sometimes swapping materials. I will say to start a nature-based learning program, you want to get a wagon.
Okay.
You want to get a wagon and you want clipboards.
Yeah, clipboards.
So we have two wagons, one that is kind of mine with nature-based learning, and then a second wagon that we had donated from our PTA that is loaded and ready to go for any teacher that wants to take a class outside. So the
Nice.
materials are already there. I will help manage those materials. So they're clipboards, they're blankets to sit, there's first aid, all these things that you would think you would need to at least take kids outside to read, write, explore.
Yeah.
Um, Based on observations that we saw last year, we have about 100% of our students will write during nature-based learning. Um,
It's amazing.
it really, I mean, it's really remarkable.
Yes.
And I promise, like, we're not pulling teeth. We're not, I'm not sitting there going, you can't be the only kid that doesn't write, you've got to keep my percent at 100%. Um, and I think there's a couple reasons why we really talk about nature journaling. So if a student needs to start with drawing, then we start with drawing. If a student, wants to start with writing, we can, you put those two together.
Yeah.
So this year we have 800 nature journals. So every child has a nature journal, and
Wow.
some of these journals are now have been with the students for 3 years. I'm not sure if
Oh,
we really had,
wow.
yeah, I think we have a second grade class that made their own journals in second grade. They are now in fourth grade, and those journals are still with them.
Wow.
So that is the big lift for the next 3 weeks or the next 2 weeks is making sure that every child has their journal, and that each lesson that we're starting with is the circling up, and utilizing that journal.
Yeah.
Now, for kindergarten, our game this week was the coyote call.
Yes.
So we circle up, we go over to the screen space, they move away from me, I do the coyote call, they come back, they get to, then we get further and further, they really get
Yeah.
to run, they come back, and then we go inside to the natures. We went into their classroom because of transitions,
Yeah.
right? How many transitions are you going to do with kindergarten? So they journaled things that they got to experience when they were doing nature-based learning. Third grade this week, they went back to a pollinator garden, exploring place where they get to, it's like an outdoor classroom as well. And so they journaled then on things like, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. Fifth grade, they know how to circle up and we practice just sit spots by different native plants right in front of the school.
Oh,
And
lovely.
then we worked on in their journals, how detailed can you be? And so you can't just tell me that that's a spider that's orange. Well,
Yes.
what size is it and where was it? And so enhancing what they're writing, and going back in revision. And that was day one.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, it's some of those routines. And then the next weeks coming up will be similar to that, is getting them used to, again, always having that journal, um, and practicing some of those core routines.
Yeah, lovely. Now, when your students are journaling, do you have them, the date? Do they record the weather of the day? I know some people are very specific with how they set up their nature journals with their students. Some are, maybe you'll have the date on, maybe you won't. Flip to any page you want to.
Right, right. There's definitely there's pieces of my background as a science teacher,
Yeah,
that's there. But this is in high school, there's some other things, but
yeah,
we do talk about the date. And when we talk about journaling, I really want them to combine some of the descriptive words with their picture.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is the risk taking piece is I want to get them away from I don't know how to draw and I don't know how to spell, so I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
It's really about what are you experiencing right now that you want to document? And this journal is for you.
Yeah.
Nobody is going to grade this and say to you, you spelled flower wrong.
Yeah.
um what sounds are you hearing, and of course we're a dual language school, so some of the teachers would prefer that the students are doing it in Spanish, some in English, and so I let the teachers also of course drive what their expectations are and where they want kids to be.
Yeah.
But the vehicle is these nature journals, that it's a safe place to document ideas.
Yes.
I do like that there's the date.
I do too. It's
I
okay.
do like that it goes in order because, especially now that we're hoping these kids can have their journals for years.
Yeah.
And so they can kind of see that progression from even their academic piece, but then also their connection piece and their observation and what are they actually writing about.
Yeah.
Um, and I go back and forth on drawing versus writing. Some teachers like really want you to write first, then draw. Some don't mind either way. If I see a student struggling to start one or the other, then I'll encourage them to flip it, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
let's
Yep.
draw something first
Yeah.
before we write. Um, and it's okay for it to be unfinished.
Yeah.
If we run out of time, we run out of time.
Yeah.
I don't go crazy about the weather unless, or time of day or anything like that, unless it's tied to the activity, maybe, or some of the kids really want to do that anyway, then have at it.
I know. Yeah, I do. I love the open-endedness of nature journals. I do like the date on it, mostly because if we are tracking seasonal changes, and we're seeing, oh yeah, that was back in September. Oh yeah, that I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
that leaf until October. I didn't see that beetle until the following June. And those type of patterns I like to be
Mm-hmm.
tied to date and season and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, we do, we've got a new way of organizing our nature journals this year. We'll see how it goes. But we've got these little, like zippy, I don't know, they're basically like a little pencil box, but like a little flat one. And
Mm.
so inside it, we've got old CD cases that we've put little
Oh,
dollops of watercolor um, paint on it. And one of those pens that you fill up with the creek water, and so you can do watercolor painting. We have
yeah.
that. We've got our little nature journals, a pencil, a Sharpie, and then the three primary colors. So they learn how to blend
Oh,
to make all
wow.
the other
Okay.
colors. And that's all that's it. Oh, and a little magnifying glass, excuse me.
Okay.
Um, and so we'll see how this works.
Okay.
I'm
I want
not
to
sh
know. I
uh,
want to know.
we'll see. I have my fingers crossed. But I'm very excited to see the development of how our nature journaling experiences go. We definitely, for grade two, threes, we start with very simple observational sketches,
Mm-hmm.
and then, we work on labels. We'll do mini lessons on sentences, and I usually put some sentence stems on
Yep.
the first page of their nature journal in case they ever need to go back for some help. Um, and then we usually do a lot of comparison. So we'll teach them how to draw Venn diagrams and
Mm,
compare two different things, or, my tree in September, and then leave that page blank because next month it'll be my tree in October. And so we
right.
try, but it's all good and said and done, but will I remember to ask the students to leave that page blank? I may not, and then that's
Right.
okay.
Right. Right. Now, and I do love the kids that hold me accountable where they're like, you said
I
we were going to go
know.
back and check on that bush.
Yes.
So you're right. You're
I
right.
know. You need to have those.
You need to
Yeah.
have those for
Yeah.
sure. for
Oh, I
sure.
love that.
Yeah.
So I've got a sense of your week. I've got a sense of how you sort of scaffold your experiences with a nice range of classes. So for anybody that's listening, if you're a grade one, grade five, grade three, we can get a sense of how you're scaffolding all of that within a 3 week, or well, at least for this week.
Right.
And so do you know, have an idea of what the next 2 weeks would look like for those classes?
Yeah, a little, yes. And the next rotations as well, we'll start to dive into more of marrying the content.
Right.
Um, and
Okay.
so that it does get a little tricky because it is the same for each grade level. So
Yeah.
second grade would all be doing the same thing, third grade all be doing the same thing. So that does help. But of course, you're going to tweak some things based on the community that has been established with the class,
Yeah.
the teachers. There are some teachers who are rocking and rolling with nature-based learning. Sometimes I'm just there to support.
Yeah.
And then of course there's teachers that I'm still leading and their support, which is okay. This is how we've designed it so far.
Yeah.
Um, and that is where the that's where the idea of the menu of lesson plans came for as well.
Right.
Because if you go by pacing guides of the curriculum for the district, sometimes it doesn't match up correctly, or it's better to do it this way in this season
Yeah.
versus you know in the middle of winter or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. So we're starting to restructure some of the lesson plans that were written. We have some new math curriculum too that's being rolled out. And so we're going to work on broadening some of the lesson plans a little bit, but also then almost like a bingo board. Like you can choose, okay, here's lessons for January in Rochester, which I'm sure is similar to you, where you might not be able to go outside for the 60 minutes. You might be able to go outside for 20 minutes and then utilize the nature center.
Yeah.
And so, it's not like I can give an exact example of what we're going to be doing in October, right?
Yeah.
But for people that are developing or trying to figure out how to do this, everything has gray areas,
Yeah.
but everything has to work for you. It is really important to try to look at the curriculum um, and marry the nature-based learning with it.
Mm.
Because again, it is what it is. We are in public schools. These are the expectations. And so you can't just freeform,
Yes.
you know, but you definitely have the space to do some freeform. And I think when people who are skeptical of nature-based learning, when they see it,
Yeah.
and that's something we're going to work on this year at our school as well, is invite others to come see it.
Yeah.
Because once you watch a class, then you really, as an educator, see, oh my gosh, forget one standard, we've just hit eight,
Exactly.
and you're still doing this part of the math curriculum, or you're still doing this part of the social studies curriculum. It's just a little bit different, or it's prepping for something that they're going to do in class tomorrow. Um,
I think it is so important for people to see it in action because I often find that people think it's going to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, then I won't do it. And so it can feel intimidating. Well, I don't know all the names of the trees. Well, either do I. And that's actually totally not the point.
right.
So you don't even have to worry about that piece. So when people see it, they can better visualize what is actually going to work in their space.
We do have some video release, and we have done some things with keeping that in mind. So there
Yeah,
are some, we have some on social media and some on our website and things like
right.
that. um and I think it's one of those two where you just start small.
Yeah,
And it's okay to sometimes bring nature in, and if that's where you have to start, that's where you have to start.
yeah,
And of course the teacher needs to feel safe. And
yeah,
I know for a lot of educators that piece of feeling in control is
yeah,
tricky,
yeah,
because obviously when you take them outside, you don't have those four walls. But the kids are so engaged and they really want to continue to explore and do things that they're so attentive
Yeah.
and they don't go anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
Now obviously that's not the case with every child all the time. So today we did a 15-minute class inside the nature center and we just started really small, and we
Yeah.
started with, we have a stuffed animal coyote named Cora, and
So
we started
cute.
with, even what does Cora look like and how do we know it's a coyote even though it's a stuffed animal, and why
Yeah.
do we have a coyote call, and just that little sensory piece and being in a room that's different than their classroom, that to me is, that was a success.
Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
wasn't the third grade class that got to go climb on logs and look at all these insects today and look at all the, the end of the flowering, season for our plants and things like that.
Yeah.
But every child got nature-based learning. It just looks different.
Yeah.
And educators need to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. Not all grade two classes look the same,
Mm-mm.
inside or outside, right? So
Right,
that is the nice thing about teacher autonomy.
right, right.
Yeah.
And so hopefully our school can be a place where educators can come see, they can come visit. I did some virtual professional development this summer. I'll be doing more of that. And it
Nice.
really was for the group I worked with this summer, they were Rochester City school teachers, all different levels.
Yeah.
We even talked about a high school biology class. What community partners, or what does your community look like on the road that you're on?
Yeah.
And the teacher said, you know what? I think the gas station on the corner has potted plants, like almost like a raised bed, but
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a big container.
Yeah.
And I said, perfect. There.
Yeah.
So you talk to the owner of the gas station or the manager and you say, hey, we want to bring a group of kids here. I know this sounds crazy, but we want to look
Yeah.
at your potted plants.
Yeah.
But it's
Yep.
also, you're now getting outside, you're getting kids to move their body,
Hmm.
you're connecting with the community. And when we all know that when the community is involved with schools, a lot of things go better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And developing those relationships, and you never know where that's going to lead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's even building that positive relationship to the space of a gas station. The odds of those high school students going up to that gas station to vandalize it, unlikely. They have such a positive relationship with that space now.
Right,
So
right, right.
it ripples so in such a lovely way. Is there anything else that we could ask you about your program, or something that you think other teachers would love to hear about before we wrap up?
I guess, I just want to encourage people to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, things are not easy, I think, in a lot of spaces for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to kind of get stuck in that negative space. And that's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't move the needle in the right direction for anybody. And we need to do better for our children.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's finding the joy in the connection with the kids and nature. And not one of us can do this by ourselves. This is what I like to call, I mean, it's a movement, right?
Yeah.
It's changing the way that we interact with our planet, and how our children get to experience learning.
Yeah.
And so anything I can do to help a teacher honestly walk out that door, not
Yeah.
to leave
Yeah.
education, please don't. But really take that leap, and take a little bit of risk yourself, and do some nature-based learning. And if they're concerned about barriers, I think one of the things that I like to do is to try to figure out how to break all those barriers, either
Yes.
go over them, around them, through them.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a challenge for me when somebody says we're not allowed or we can't. I'm
Yeah.
like, but could you do this?
Yeah.
And thinking about it that way. And of course there's a respectful way, like I said, to bring nature in. Obviously you don't want to do that necessarily all the time. You
Yeah.
don't want to have an impact on the natural community, but sometimes if that's what you need to start, then start.
Yeah.
And this is a journey that a lot of us are doing. And so you're not alone. There's so many resources.
Yeah.
And, maybe when we talk again, we can talk about those next resources in terms of how to help others do this because
Yeah.
there's a lot in the works and this is growing.
I
So it's really exciting.
It is so exciting, and I do have a feeling that in the near future we will have to have a part three to do some more updates. I do know that your website is now different from the last time we talked, so I will also link the new school website because there are so many. I was just looking at it right before we chatted. It's very lovely, like well laid out,
Oh, thank you.
very user friendly, and so I will make sure that I link the website in the show notes as
Sure.
well.
Great.
Um,
Thank you. And there's
ye-
a spot on there that people can fill out a form for either a visit or at least
yeah,
information as well.
yeah. Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, thank you for spending a late evening with me.
My
Um,
pleasure.
it's so nice to hear some new ways that we can get outside with our kids, especially at the beginning of the year from I mean, you've just done it all. So
Oh,
I
thank
learned
you.
tons tonight. So thank you very much. And
My
I'm so
pleasure.
excited for the year you have ahead of you.
Thank you. Me too. I can't wait. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
The last thing that I'll tell everybody is that we've got these monthly coaching calls for Teach Outdoors. So if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to ask. My email is lauren@teachoutdoors.ca. Otherwise, we'll end the podcast with the song From the Trees by Brandon Grant. Bye, everybody.
I start on my path, I look around to find a spot that I can call home for a while. Walking slowly, I feel so calm. I find a spot where nature opens up her arms for me to breathe. I see the stories I can learn from the trees, the feeling, the touch of gentle breeze, knowing the land around me brings me peace, watching the world around me sets me free. I feel the sunshine kiss my skin, I hear all of the birds singing from within. I get familiar with my space. I now know how every part fits in every place for me to breathe. I see the stories I can learn from the trees, the feeling, the touch of gentle breeze, knowing the land around me brings me peace, watching the world around me sets me. I go to visit in morning, in sunshine and the rain, to see what's different and notice the things that stay the same. I get to know my teacher, the spot that gives me health. To get to know the land is to get to know yourself. To breathe, I see the stories I can learn from the trees, the feeling, the touch of gentle breeze, knowing the land around me brings me peace, watching the world around me sets me free.